In the 2020 Border Gavaskar Trophy, the Indian cricket team had notched up big scores in excess of 400 in Australia, which were a par score. Now, in the 2024 Border Gavaskar Trophy, 300 seemed to be a match-winning total. What was the reason for such a dip? Was it the aggressive approach that's normal in new age cricket? Or lack of patience shown by the batters? Or has the skill drastically come down? Or was there something else to it? Many experts and former players have had their say for the low scores. Steve Smith, who was not at his absolute best, but he still notched up 2 centuries in the Border Gavaskar Trophy. Smith decoded the reason for the torrid run the batters have been having, not just in this series, but for 3 years now. The reason for the slump goes back to the 2020-21 Border Gavaskar Trophy, where Australia lost to an India side that were ravaged by injuries.
Well, I think since 2021, when they changed the Kookaburra ball, batting has definitely got more difficult, and I think you can see that in the way the scores have come down as well, and bowling averages have come down, batting averages have come down, and usually I think in the first innings of a game, if you're putting, you think back probably 5 years ago, you're seeing consistent 400, 500s being scored in the first innings. If you put a 3 in front of it these days, you're usually in a pretty strong position. So, you got to think about that as well when you're thinking about play. Sometimes, if you don't get 100, it's not the end of the world. A good 60 or a good 30 at times can be really crucial.
What changes did Cricket Australia make? The Kookaburra traditionally was known to get soft in just 15 overs and gave no help to the bowlers. In this cycle, the Kookaburra has gone the way of the Dukes in England. The Kookaburra ball was given an extra layer of lacquer to keep the ball newer and harder for a longer duration. That was just one change that was made. As if changing the lacquer wasn't enough, the other change to the ball gave even more help to the bowlers. It was to the seam. Traditionally, the seam of the old Kookaburra was flat and did not move that much off the pitch. The newer version had a pronounced seam that gave ball deviation even after it got old. To top it all up, the pitches too got greener.
Wickets got greener as well, so it's kind of like a perfect storm coming together. So I think particularly the first 35 overs, I'd say, of an innings is very challenging at the moment with the significant seam movement.
The numbers too don't tell us a different story. During the 2020-21 India Tour, the Brisbane Test produced a total of 1,328 runs. In 2024-25, just 802 runs were scored. Previously, the total runs scored in Sydney were 1,128. The numbers dropped drastically in 2025 as the batters managed to score just 685 runs across 4 innings. Cricket Australia decided to make these changes to the ball post the 2020-21 Border Gavaskar Trophy. Since then, the average of batters in Australia has come down from 32.8 to 26.4. Steve Smith went on to term the last 3 years as the most difficult years of his career as well.
I think, the last 3 years has probably been the hardest that I've experienced in my career, batting-wise, in terms of the amount of movement that's been generated.
It was a horror show for batters in the Border Gavaskar Trophy, with just 3 batters managing over 300 runs. Just 7 centuries were put up across 20 innings. These haven't been good signs for the batters. This is understandable as batters in the past would have to adjust to the bounce touring Australia. But this time, they also needed to adjust to the swing off the pitch and in the air due to the new Kookaburra. It will be interesting to see how batters in the future will prepare themselves for the new Australian conditions. But was this really the reason for India's embarrassing show down under?